Well, since President Mahama assumed the position of President of the Republic of Ghana, and he started forming his government, and started keeping faith with the people of Ghana and fulfilling his promise to operate the leanest and most efficient government in the history of the Fourth Republic, elements within the opposition have sought to spread falsehood and engage in deliberate disinformation with a view to whittling away the goodwill that President Mahama has naturally, won from the people of Ghana because of the way that he's doing things. So first it started with the Honorable Apujinapo, who claimed that President Mahama has appointed 100 presidential staffers and is only seeking to make up for the shortfall in ministers by appointing more presidential staffers. Then lately, Dr. Gideon Boaku, who incidentally has worked in the office of the president before, under the office of the vice president, went out to spread gratuitous falsehoods about the composition of the staff of the office of the president and the monies allocated to the office of the president. Now, the office of the president is made up of a number of entities. So there's what we call the General Administration, Office of the Chief of Staff, Vice President Secretariat, Cabinet Secretariat, Press Secretariat, and then Policy Coordination and Delivery Units. These are the units that make up the Office of the President. In addition to these units, there are other government agencies that fall under the Office of the President. So together, we call them Office of Government Machinery. Under the MPP, the Office of Government Machinery had 26 entities. That is, if you add the units under the Office of the President. That number was made up of a number of agencies. The list is before me, I could go through all of them. But they created new entities: Coastal Development Authority, Middle Belt Development Authority, IPEP, the one that used to be headed by Howard Kumsin as a whole ministry before it was moved under the Office of the President. And then there's also the Northern Development Authority, the Zongo Development Fund, and what have you. Because President Mahama reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23, some agencies that used to operate under the collapsed ministries have been moved to the Office of the President for budgetary purposes. Because when the budget is being prepared, the staff of those agencies have to be accounted for. That accounting has to go through a mother agency. So for instance, there was a Ministry of Information, which was headed by a minister. It had 76 directors and staff, civil servants. That ministry doesn't exist anymore. So all the directors and civil servants have left. There's no such thing. Some of them have been reassigned. Now the president appointed me as his spokesperson and Minister of State for Government Communication. That means that all the agencies that used to work under the Ministry of Information have had to come under my jurisdiction. There are some of them who are state-owned enterprises, like the Ghana Publishing Company Limited, Graphic Communication Group, and New Times Corporation. They are state-owned enterprises, so now they fall under SIGA. But the Ghana News Agency, for instance, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, the Information Services Departments, and what have you, fall under me. Now, the staff of these organizations are civil servants who have to be paid. Let me add that President Mahama has not employed a single civil servant in addition to what he came to meet. So the civil servants under these organizations, their salaries have to be catered for. In addition to these three organizations that I have mentioned, because the National Security Ministry was collapsed, now the National Security Council, or the National Security Secretariat, the Research Department, which is an arm of the Security and Intelligence Services of Ghana, the National Signals Bureau, and the National Intelligence Bureau, which used to be called the BNI, all now operate under the Office of the President. So it is the salaries of these staff that are now being catered for under the Office of the President. So when you see 2.7 billion, it is the salaries of these staff plus all the other agencies that form the Office of Government Machinery that is reflected in that number. For example, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation has 1,115 staff. The Information Service Department has 1,309 staff. The Ghana News Agency has 133 staff. When you put it together, that is 2,557 staff. The salaries of these people for, the year 2025 is being catered for through the Office of the President. They will be paid by Controller and Accountant General's Department, as all other public and civil servants are paid. But for budgetary purposes, they will be catered for under the Office of the President. The staff of National Security Council or National Security Secretariat, Research Department, National Signals Bureau, National Intelligence Bureau receive the same treatment. So it is not that the Minister for Finance has allocated 2.7 billion Ghana cedis to President Mahama to squander. No. All the 30 agencies that operate under the Office of the President now have their salaries going through the process that is outlined in the budget. So the 2.7 billion is for them. It is not for President Mahama's use. Now, despite these numbers, who are civil servants, not political appointees, as far as political appointees are concerned, President Mahama has appointed 27 presidential staffers and 3 directors. Today, when he swore in the deputy ministerial nominees and the Minister of State for public sector reforms, he said it. 30 staff. We are in the process of recruiting support staff, but they will come nowhere near the 336 that the MPP had just before they left him. So now when you come to savings, the part of the budget which is discretionary in nature, that government can decide what to spend on. Now mind you, salaries and compensation, that is item 1. When at the end of the month, the government looks at its account, the first thing it thinks of is the salaries of civil servants. That one is fixed. It is not flexible. You can't do anything about it. It's almost statutory. But the part of the budget, which is discretionary, if you look at the figures carefully, if you look at the MPP's figures, in the year 2024, just last year, an amount of 924,143,874 cedis was allocated for goods and services under the Office of Government Machinery. This year, an amount of 847,964,846 Ghana cedis has been allocated for goods and services. That is a reduction of 76,179,028 Ghana cedis. Despite the fact that other agencies have been brought here, the goods and services budget, which is discretionary expenditure, has been reduced. If you go to what we call capital expenditure, CAPEX, another item that falls under discretionary expenditure. Last year, under President Akufo-Addo, 612,440,588 Ghana cedis was allocated to the Office of Government Machinery, whose composition I've already explained to you. This year, from that lofty 612 million Ghana cedis, 269,755,853 Ghana cedis has been allocated for capital expenditure under the Office of Government Machinery, which is a saving of over 345,322,441 Ghana cedis, if you put that together with the savings that are coming from goods and services. So indeed, because of President Mahama's commitment to operating a lean government, we are seeing a significant reduction in the amount of money allocated to the Office of the President for discretionary expenditure. What Ghanaians criticized President Akufo-Addo was the excessive misuse of public funds in discretionary expenditure. His travel budget alone, at some point in a particular year, was 68 million Ghana cedis. For the first 6 months of a particular year, 68 million Ghana cedis. That has not happened under President Mahama. So the desperate effort by the likes of Dr. Gideon Buaku and Abu Jinapor to seek force equivalence in order to equalize for the clearly irresponsible governance of President Akufo-Addo and the flagrant waste of public resources will not wash. We are aware that disinformation, blatant falsehood, and gratuitous lies are parts of the MPP's armory when it comes to waging a political battle against their opponents. But we stand prepared. As Minister of State responsible for government communication and spokesperson for the President, it is my duty to correct such misinformation. That is why I have found it necessary to engage you, the good people of Ghana, through this medium to explain the issues to you. So, 1, 11 billion Ghana cedis has not been given to President Mahama. 2, the monies that Dr. Gideon Buaku is referring to are monies going to the payment of civil servants who have been placed here because their mother ministries have been collapsed. By collapsing the mother ministries, President Mahama has made savings on the monies that would have been used to run the ministries. For instance, the Ministry of Information had 76 directors and officials. Because the ministry doesn't exist anymore, we don't have to provide vehicles for those officials. We don't have to provide office space. We don't have to pay the minister a salary. We do not have to provide the minister with a Land Cruiser and a saloon car. We don't have to give the minister a bungalow. The minister's office would not have to be set up. We don't have to give the minister support staff because of that. Now, because of the scrapping of the ministry, now there is myself, there is Shamima Muslim, my deputy, there is Sama Pratt, who is the press secretary to the vice president, and an administrative staff of 3 and 2 other people who help us manage the entire communications of both the presidency and the entirety of government communications. And this is done by barely 7 people. Again, it is not true that I have been allocated a total of 78 million Ghana cedis to manage government communications. That is false. What it is that all the 3 agencies who now have been made parts of the Office of Government Machinery, or who are now under the Office of the President, their goods and services budget and their capital expenditure budget is what you see there. As for myself, my deputy, Ama Pratt, and the people who help us, who make up the managers of the communication wing of the presidency and the entire government of Ghana, nobody has given us any goods and services. Nobody has given us any capital expenditure. This is my office. I don't need any capital expenditure again for this my office. The office just before this one is where 2 administrative staff of mine operate. And together with them and the other people I've mentioned, we manage government communication offices. So we've not been given any goods and services. We've not been given any capital expenditure. The goods and services and capital expenditure, making up 78 million, belongs to ISD. That has 1,309 employees. Ghana Broadcasting Corporation with 1,115 civil servants. And the Ghana News Agency with 133 civil servants. We do know that the NPP used to operate slush funds. So if in their time, they use such monies on propaganda to pay people to abuse political opponents and spread falsehood about them, that is their own business. But we have no such operation going on. And therefore, I thought it was necessary to engage you, the good people of Ghana, to understand the issues so that you are able to know that Gideon Boakon is peddling falsehood in a desperate effort to provide excuses for the wanton waste that they superintendent in this country. And that is why you, the people of Ghana, voted them out and gave the mandate to President Mahama. He is committed to using your resources judiciously so that you will find that it is possible to achieve a lot with fewer people. And since he became president, he has demonstrated that. So we'll continue to keep you informed and dispel every false notion that is created about this government. Thank you very much for watching.